For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warm up from the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, Rob Donaldson, who does great work with the show/podcast, Rob's Best Bets. We're going to be chatting with him about what we've all seen here in baseball in the first 6 weeks of the season. We're going to be turning it forward to what we're all going to be getting on Wednesday, and additionally, just what's been working out with him on the player prop front, as I know that he's been hitting quite a few of those over the last few weeks. So we're going to be chatting with him about that in segment number 2. In the final segment, going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Wednesday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways we'll fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at @unit_D1. Keep in mind, letters M. The name does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, but everything that is brought to you by Edge Boost. Over at Edge Boost, they make sure that bettors are able to access their funds 24/7, 365 on leap years, 366 days out of the year. As at Edge Boost, they're not running on credit or anything like that. It's just an account that you're able to utilize for all of your gambling transactions whenever you want to. You earn cashback rewards, and when you go to edgeboost.bet, type in that promo code of Greg, Greg. That'll give you a dollar for dollar match on your first deposit of up to $25. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Tuesday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
Paul Skeens could not get it done for the Pittsburgh Pirates as they fall to the St. Louis Cardinals by a count of 2-1. By the way, Cardinals have been one of your better over teams in all baseball thus far this season. That did not turn out to be the case in this one as Paul Skeens, he did his part. He gives up 2 runs for the Pittsburgh Pirates over the course of 6 innings from their Dennis Santana, David Benner. They both on the scoreless inning, but for St. Louis, Matthew Liberatore was able to be really good in this one. 8 punch-outs, 7 innings, allows 1 run. Steven Matz and Gordon Graceffo were both able to lend a scoreless inning, so they do find a way to be able to get the job done. The Miami Marlins have been your top over team in all baseball this far this season as they have played 23 overs to 12 unders. They do not get the over in this one, but they do get the job done 5-4 the final as Tony Gonsolin, not bad in this one. 8 punch-outs, he allows 2 runs over the course of 5 innings, did allow a home run as going deep for the Miami Marlins. You had home run number 2 of the season for Liam Hicks. From there, you did have a pair of runs surrendered by Luis Garcia in the course of an inning. Alex Vesia, Anthony Banda, Tanner Scott all led a scoreless inning, but JP Fireeisen, unearned run allowed in the 10th inning as for the Miami Marlins, walking it off, AC Sanchez with an RBI single, and for the Miami Marlins, Cal Quantrill, pretty good start. 1 run allowed over the course of 5 innings. From there, Anthony Veziano does give up back-to-back home runs as going deep for the Dodgers, Freddie Freeman, his 8th home run of the season, and home run number 10 for Mr. Shohei Ohtani, and from there, the Marlins were able to lock it back down. Lake Picard gives up a run in 2/3 of an inning. Calvin Fauché, 2/3 of an inning scoreless. Anthony Bender, scoreless inning. Jesus Tinoco, he was able to give you 2 scoreless innings. The Texas Rangers are your top under team in all baseball as they have played 11 overs at 25 unders, and they went under again against the Boston Red Sox. 6-1, the Rangers get the job done as Ethan Eovaldi gives up 1 run in 6 innings. Sean Armstrong, Robert Garcia combined for 2 scoreless innings, and Chris Martin, a scoreless inning as well. And for Boston, Lucas Giolito gives up 6 runs in 3 2/3 innings. Not great there. Sean Newcomb in long relief was pretty solid. 4 scoreless innings, and Brendan Bernardino for outside the bullpen scoreless, but unfortunately for them, not a lot doing at the plate, but a lot doing for the Guardians and the Nationals at the plate as both of these games in their doubleheader go over. For the Nationals, they take game number 1 by a count of 10-9. Now, for the Washington Nationals, things got very hairy here as they were up by a count of 6-2 going into the 7th inning, and they departed that 7th inning up down by a count of 8-6, but then then they were able to rally, and they put up 4 runs of their own in the bottom of the 7th inning. So there was some good, clean family fun there. Luis Ortiz gives up 6 runs, 5 of which were earned, and 5 1/3 innings, as he did allow a home run to James Wood, home run number 10 of the season, and Nolan Jones was able to go deep off of Jake Irvin, second home run of the campaign for the Nationals. Irvin, pretty solid start here, gives up 2 runs in 5 1/3 innings. Andrew Chafin, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Jorge Lopez gets 5 outs. He allows a run. Kyle Finnegan, he gives up a run in an inning, and Jose Ferrer, 5 runs allowed in a third of an inning. And for the Cleveland Guardians, he did have Matthew Festa come out of the bullpen, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless, but Cade Smith, 4 runs allowed in 2/3 of an inning. Hunter Gaddis in out of the bullpen scoreless, and Joey Cantillo, he was able to give a scoreless inning. And then game number 2, the Cleveland Guardians were able to flip the script 9-1. The final is for the Washington Nationals. This was less than savory for them against Ben Lively, getting just 1 run off of him in 5 1/3 innings. That was a home run off the bat of Riley Adams, his second home run of the campaign. From there, Jacob Junis, 2 scoreless innings. Tim Aaron, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and Zach Kent, a scoreless inning. And for the Cleveland Guardians, you were able to have quite a few bombs in this one, as Daniel Schneemann gets his 5th home run of the campaign. Austin Edges, his 3rd home run of the campaign, and Brad Lord gives one up to Carlos Santana, his 4th home run of the season, as Lord gives up 3 runs over the course of 6 innings, and then the bullpen happened. Lucas Sims give up 3 runs in a third of an inning. Jackson Rutledge, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Eduardo Salazar gives up 2 runs in an inning, and then Zach Berzicic, hopefully I said that correctly, he has no vowels in his last name, gives up a run over the course of an inning. For the Atlanta Braves, they find a way to persevere and get the job done against the Cincinnati Reds. 2-1 the final. Come up in the 9th inning down by a count of 1-0, but they're able to manufacture some runs as Emilio Pagan blows a save. He gives up a run in an inning, and then Lyon Richardson, he gives up the RBI single to Marcell Ozuna in the 10th inning that ends it, so he gives up an earned run in that 10th. Andrew Abbott, solid start, 5 scoreless innings. Graham Ashcraft, 8 scoreless innings, and Tony Santillan, 2 scoreless innings. And for the Reds, 1 of 13 with men in scoring position, as Chris Sale, 10 punch-outs and 6 2/3 innings scoreless. Pierce Johnson and out of the bullpen scoreless. Rafael Montero along with Rossio Iglesias, both on his scoreless inning, and Desbel Hernandez, he was able to give the team an inning but gave up the lone run along the way. For the New York Yankees, they just drop a bomb on the Slam Diego Padres. How about a 12-3 final as they put up a 10 spot in the 7th inning. Michael King, well, he pitched like a king in this one. 2 runs allowed in 6 innings. He did allow a home run along the way as Aaron Judge gets his 12th home run of the season, but then Austin Wells hits it well. It's a grand slam off of Wendy Peralta, his 7th home run of the campaign for Peralta. Gives up 6 runs in 2/3 of an inning. Adrian Morejon, he gives up 4 runs in a third of an inning. You did have from there a scoreless inning out of Ryan Burgent, but damage by then had been done. And for the New York Yankees, pretty solid start here from Clark Schmidt, giving up 2 runs over the course of 6 innings. Tim Hill, he gets it out of the bullpen, allows a run, but Fernando Cruz, he was able to give you a scoreless inning, and then Yuri De Los Santos along Tyler Madzik, they both give a scoreless inning apiece. And a lot of scoreless innings until it got a little bit too little too late for the Chicago Cubs. 14-5, the San Francisco Giants winning the 11th inning. They put up a 9 spot in the 11th inning. Just an absolute display of power here from the San Francisco Giants, as Justin Verlander does allow 3 runs in his 5 innings, including a home run to Miguel Amaya, 3rd home run of the campaign. From there, their bullpen was pretty solid, as Ryan Walker does give up 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning in the 9th inning. That did force extras, but Randy Rodriguez, Camilo Duvall, Tyler Rogers, all end a scoreless inning. Eric Miller farts out the bullpen scoreless, and then Kyle Harrison, that's a name you haven't heard in quite some time, he was able to end a scoreless inning as well. And for the San Francisco Giants, lone home run in this game, Jungle Lee, that actually came in the 3rd inning off of Colin Ray, so hip hip hooray for his 4th home run season, as Ray gives up 5 runs, 4 of which were in 5 innings, and it was going well for the bullpen. Drew Pomerantz, Brad Keller, Daniel Palencia, Chris Flexen, Porter Hodge, they all lend a scoreless inning, and then Ryan Presley. He faced 9 batters and got none of them out, giving up 9 runs, 8 of which were earned. And then Caleb Theobar, he goes for an inning. He did allow a few inherited runners to score, but man, that is an ERA booster for our good friend and Mr. Presley, so he left the building a very sad man. The Milwaukee Brewers, they left very happy as they took down the Houston Astros by a count of 4-3. As for Houston, you did have Brandon Rogers get his 1st home run of the season. That comes off of Chad Patrick. Patrick gives up 3 runs in 6 2/3 innings, but Nick Mears and out of the bullpen scoreless. Abner Uribe along Tyler McGill, they were both able to give you a scoreless inning, and Jake Bauers, 3rd home run of the campaign, that comes off of Hayden Wieseski, who gives up 4 runs, 4 innings. From there, the bullpen was good. Stephen Oker to 2 scoreless innings. Bryant Abreu, a scoreless inning. The other Brian King, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and then Taylor Scott giving an out of the bullpen scoreless, but that was too little too late. Kansas City Royals have been a really good under team thus far this season, 12 overs, 24 unders, and a push, and they get the job done against the Chicago White Sox, 4-3 the final is for the Southsiders. Sean Burke, pretty good start here, allows a solo home run in 6 1/3 innings. Kyle Isbell, third home run on the campaign for him. From there, Steven Wilson gives up a run in 1 1/3 innings. Jordan Leisure not out of the bullpen scoreless, but Cam Bouger, he allows the game-winning, or I guess you call it RBI single from Bobby Witt Jr. That's a ball that should have been caught, but they just let it fall. Not sure why, but that's it for the Kansas City Royals. Seth Lugo, 2 runs, one of which was earned in 6 2/3 innings. Anel Zerpa, he gives up a run in an inning, and Taylor Clark, 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless for the Royals to be able to persevere and get the job done. Also being able to persevere and get the job done, the Minnesota Twins, 9-1. They take down the Baltimore Orioles, who are now 13-21, and once again, bad starting pitching. Cade Povich did fill 6 innings, but gave up 5 runs, all of which were earned, including a home run to Carlos Correa. Has been awful this year. Second home run on the campaign, and then Byron Buxton off of Matt Bowman. 8th home run on the campaign. Bowman gives up that home run 2/3 of an inning, and he gives up 2 runs. Ciano Perez, 2 runs, one of which was earned, give it up in 1/3 of an inning, and then Gregory Soto, scoreless inning, but not a lot doing for the bats of the Orioles as Pablo Lopez punches out 11, gives up 1 run in 5 innings. Danny Kalum, Louis Varlin, Cole Sands, Oriel Cala, they're all able to end a scoreless inning, and being able to get the job done as well was the Philadelphia Phillies. They go on the road. They take down the Tampa Bay Rays by a count of 8-4 as Zach Wheeler, he was wheeling and dealing, gives up 2 runs over the course of 7 innings. Did allow a home run to Yandy Diaz, 5th home run on the campaign, and then Drew Rasmussen. He gives up 3 runs over the course of 4 1/3 innings, including a pair of bombs. Going deep for the Phillies, you had home run number 12 of the campaign for Kyle Schwarber, and Alec Bohm, ding dong, the witch is dead. He gets his first home run on the campaign. Mason Englert a little bit later on gives one up to Nick Castellanos. That was home run number 4 of the campaign. As for Mason Englert, he gives up 4 runs over the course of his inning. Eric Orze, 2 scoreless innings. Mason Montgomery, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and Cole Sulzer gives up a run in an inning. Meanwhile, for the Phillies, both of their bullpen pieces allowed a run in an inning. Orion Kirkering along with Matt Strom. The Arizona Diamondbacks, they get the job done against the New York Metropolitans. This by a count of 5-1, and for the Mets, very good under team thus far this season. 14 overs, 22 unders, and a push, but for the Mets on this day, not a lot doing at the plate, and David Peterson did allow 4 runs over the course of his 6 innings, including a home run. As going deep, Lourdes Gurriel, 6th home run on the campaign. Jose Buto gives up a unearned run over the course of 2 innings, and Zach Gallen, he was looking like the old Zach Gallen. 1 run allowed over the course of 7 innings. Kevin Ginkel along with Shelby Miller, they both lend a scoreless inning to be able to get the job done there, and also being able to get the job done, the LA Angels over the Toronto Blue Jays, 8-3 the final is for the Blue Jays. Jose Reina gives up 2 runs in 4 1/3 innings. He did allow a home run in this one as going deep. It was home run number 7 of the campaign for Taylor Ward, and then Joe Adell sets fire to the rain. He goes deep off of Jeff Hoffman, 3rd home run on the campaign, and Yoel Makata, that's a name you haven't heard in quite a while. He also goes deep off of Hoffman, 1st home run on the campaign as Jeff Hoffman allows us 2 bombs, 3 runs in 1/3 of an inning. Yimi Garcia, he gives up 3 runs in 1/3 of an inning. Chad Green, 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Mason Fluharty, scoreless inning. Dylan Tate and Eric Lauer, they both give you an out of the bullpen scoreless, and for Eric Lauer, 1 pitch, 1 out for him, so yay verily there. And for the Blue Jays, they were able to get a pair of bombs in this one as Tyler Anderson gives one up to George Springer, 4th home run of the season, and then Anthony Santander, he was able to get home run number 5 of the season as his comes off of Ryan Johnson. Johnson gives up that home run in 2/3 of an inning, and for Tyler Anderson, pretty solid performance. 2 runs allowed in 6 2/3 innings. Hector Neris, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and then 1 scoreless inning out of Jose Fermin to be able to get the job done, and also being able to get the job done. How about the Seattle Mariners out there in Sacramento? And then the Seattle Mariners do indeed get the job done by a count of 5-3. Rare under out there in Sacramento. I believe just the 7th under that the A's have had in a home game this season, as for Seattle, they were able to put together a nice rally in the 9th inning to be able to get it done. 3 runs in the 9th after trailing by a count of 3-2 entering that inning. Tyler Ferguson was the man that gave up those 3 runs in 2/3 of an inning. Jeffrey Springs, relatively good start, gives up 2 runs over the course of 5 innings, but did give up a home run to Julio Rodriguez, his 6th home run of the campaign, and Emerson Hancock. Pretty solid for Seattle. 2 runs allowed in 6 innings. From there, Matt Brash, he gives a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Gabe Speier does give up a run in 1/3 of an inning. Colin Snyder, Carlos Vargas, they both end a scoreless inning. And for the Athletics, you did have Noah Murdoch, led a scoreless inning, Justin Cerner 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and TJ McFarland and Tyler Ferguson, they both give you an out of the bullpen scoreless as well. And if you're looking at what we're getting trend-wise in baseball right now, it has been a little bit of an underwhelming season thus far, but over the last 7 days, we have been seeing quite a few of the underdogs barking, as the favorites have went 51-44 on the money line over the last 7 days, just a 53.7% hit rate, and the under hitting at 51.6% over the last 7 days, 49 unders to 46 overs. Meanwhile, if you're looking at the entirety of the season favorites, hitting at 60.2%, 321 and 212 on the money line. Meanwhile, the under, it's hitting at 51.6%, 264 unders to 248 overs. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now. That's what we're getting trend-wise. And coming up next, how about if we do talk with our good friend Rob Donaldson, who does great work with the show/podcast Rob's Best Bets, right here on the Baseball Betting Show. Myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the Beats and Family Podcast.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And it's always great to be joined by this man, as we've got Rob Donaldson aboard. He does a great job with the show/podcast Rob's Best Bets, taking a look at this wonderful game of baseball. When it's in season, he's absolutely superb on the college basketball front as well. I know that he's very hard at work to take a look at all that we are getting there, and he always does a tremendous job of making sure that we are able to get the best in terms of baseball bets, and he does a great job with his player props as well. You're able to follow him on Twitter/X at RobDFB. And Rob, it is always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, Greg. And to your point, college basketball's on the back burner at the moment, but it's still kind of, needing to be followed. And Major League Baseball right now, once the NBA playoffs are done, once the NHL playoffs are done, it's full front and center in terms of actual game action and betting action for baseball. And that's what makes it a ton of fun.
Absolutely. And I do want to ask you about this, because you do a lot of sides and totals, and you do a great job of breaking those down here on the show. But what are you taking a look at right now in terms of player props, and what's really been hitting for you this far this season?
Well, I think right now the player props in terms of the hitting market is really starting to liven up again, because in April you have that inconsistency of weather, right? You have sometimes it's going to be snowy, you have 40-degree temperatures, 50-degree temperatures, and then you'll have Tampa Bay playing in the 80s, or maybe a rough over in Arlington. And some of these places can be a launching pad. Others, they're going to be wearing these knit caps and looking like they're freezing to death outside. But I think right now, when you're starting to get a little bit more neutral in terms of the weather, it's going to really start to liven up the hitting market with actually projecting, if you're hitting the ball well, can you hit the ball well regardless of where you're playing? And I think that's kind of ultimately what's been working about well for me over the past couple weeks here.
Yep, I do love that. And with regards to some of these player props as well, how much are you just taking a look at not so much a player itself, but looking to fade some of these bad pitchers?
Yeah, I think it goes hand in hand, but ultimately, to your point, I am looking at the starting pitchers and thinking, all right, who's getting tagged? Who's maybe not necessarily paying for it underneath the hood? I think about a guy like a Casey Mize, who's going on Wednesday, who has really been giving up a lot of hard contact, hasn't been striking out a lot of hitters. And when you have those two components with a pitcher, whether, they have an ERA north of 5 or they have an ERA under 3, I really do believe that that's the type of guys you want to be targeting, because balls are going to be theoretically put in play if they're not getting struck out. And if they're getting put in play, a lot of these kind of underlying stats are pointing it being, a hard hit ball. So that's definitely the pitchers I try to key in on there.
Yep, absolutely. And I think that's going to be interesting with the Detroit Tigers, because I was seeing before Casey Mize for them, it might be Jackson Jobe, though, for them. Would you be looking at Jobe perhaps giving up some hard contact out there in Colorado as well? Because I think that he's an interesting case study, too.
I think you have a couple young pitchers with Jobe and Mize who the surface numbers have actually been very, very strong. And I think part of that is playing in Comerica, playing in some of these pitcher-friendly ballparks in the month of April where the weather was kind of actually to the benefit of the pitching staff. But a lot of their underlying numbers are kind of pointing to them potentially having a really bad May or even a June if they can't get some things figured out. So, to your point, Colorado Rockies are a really bad team, but can some of these pitchers who are maybe sporting an ERA that isn't truly representative get hit by some of these bad teams? I tend to think so, and so that kind of presents a really nice fade spot, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I think that that's such an interesting game because right now we're seeing a total of 10, and for our good friend in Kyle Freeland, he's about a plus 155 underdog, which I feel like Kyle Freeland's pitched much better than his ERA would indicate. He's not really giving up any walks, but boy, oh boy, is he giving up contact. How much would you take a look at this spot, more or less to back some of the Colorado Rockies hitter, and not necessarily the team itself, because as we know, the Colorado Rockies, their pitching has been not great to say the least, and when you're on pace for fewer than 35 wins entering in the day on Tuesday, you know that things are less than savory.
To your point, I think there's a lot of angles you can go with here. You can go with a Rockies team total over. You can go with a full game over, because I think Mize or Job and Kyle Freeland on the other side are kind of a perfect pairing for runs to be scored. But I am also looking at that plus 1.5. That's actually a really nice plus money price for the Colorado Rockies. I won't mind that. And even if you want to be a little bit crazy, maybe even like a first 5 money line or a full game money line. I'm kind of picking and choosing between all those different angles right now, but I do see a lot of value in betting on the Rockies in some capacity here on Wednesday.
And that is something that has not been said very often thus far this season as for the Colorado Rockies. Yeah, it's been rough for them to say the least, but again, I do feel like Kyle Freeland has pitched a little bit better than what he's shown thus far this season. I personally cannot back that bullpen to save my life, though. As joining me on the show, we do have Rob Donaldson, who does such great work over at the Rob's Best Bet Show, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And how much do you just take a look at that aspect of things? Because there are some really, really bad bullpens this year. I'm looking at you, the Los Angeles Angels, who I still can't get over the fact that they allowed 2 home runs in the same inning to Riley Green. You would think after he gave up the first home run in the inning that you'd be like, all right, let's not give up a second. And somehow, some way, our beloved Gomer Pyle gave up the second home run of the inning to him. But that said, how do you take a look at just some of these teams that just seem to be lighting games on fire with their bullpens?
Yeah, and I think it's a really easy approach, in all honesty. It's ask yourself a question before placing a bet on, if you're talking about a side, or even a total for that matter, do you want that team's bullpen involved in the game? If the answer is no, go with the first 5 angle, go with the first 3 angle rather than the full game. If you really feel like it's a true, spin of the roulette wheel, if it lands on black, it's going to be awful. If it lands on red, it's going to be fantastic. Maybe just eliminate, adding the bullpen into the equation if you like the starting pitcher going. And, vice versa. If you really like the bullpen and the guys that are fresh in that pen, going into a game, maybe you do want to involve that bullpen after the starter so that your team's bats can get really involved against the other team. And that's what I think goes into a handicap. And the nice part about having a first 5 market versus a full game market is exactly that right there.
Yep, absolutely. And I'm someone that I very much do gauge bullpen. So looking at some of these teams that they might be able to get the job done in the back half of a game like the San Diego Padres is great. And well, the Washington Nationals are currently the Washington Nationals, and that's not great to say the least. But what is tremendous is getting Rob Donaldson aboard as he's joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And Rob, we do have ourselves a lot of fun that is going to be coming up for Wednesday. And this one really stands out to me, the Max Fried versus Dylan Cease matchup with getting those aforementioned Padres at a plus 150. I'm even seeing a plus 155 out there, total of 8. How do you look at this matchup? Because with Max Fried, he has been so tremendous this year, but he has given up 2 runs over his last 5 starts, and this just doesn't seem to me to be sustainable with Max Fried. And I do think that getting this sort of plus money on a guy in Dylan Cease, I think is doing for positivity. Actually, is calling my name here.
I'm right there with you, and ultimately, I think Fried is actually pitching true to the underlying numbers and the strikeout numbers. I think that to some degree, this is sustainable. Maybe not a 1 ERA, but maybe something sub 3.
Field Independence 296. I think that's viable.
Yes, 100%. And, when you look at Dylan Cease on the other side, that's where I think the value is going to really come in when you back the Padres, because normal people are going to look at Dylan Cease and say, oh man, his ERA is north of 5. Maybe he's fallen off a cliff. But Dylan Cease has done this in several seasons where the start of his years just don't go to plan, and then all of a sudden, the guy's throwing borderline no-hitters up on a nightly basis. And do I think it's going to flip a switch overnight against a team like the Yankees? Maybe not, but if he goes out there and trolls 6 innings pitched and 2 earned, I really do think the Padres are very viable to win that game, and especially at a plus 150 money line price, I think it's an absolute no-brainer to throw a little bit of a dart on them.
Yep, I'm right there with you. Being able to get this sort of a plus number on, say, the Miami Marlins might not be so great. Being able to get this sort of a number on the San Diego Padres, I'm right there with you. And speaking of the Miami Marlins, just how do we need to play these totals right now? Because this is a little bit of a TBD situation against the LA Dodgers, as the Dodgers have not announced their starter. But I just still go back to it. The Miami Marlins are playing 70% of their games the over since the beginning of the 2024 season at home. And I mean, this has just been a case where they just can't set these numbers high enough. I'm not sure if you've had any angles with regards to Miami Marlins, but I mean, if you've done nothing but play the over in Miami Marlins games, you made yourself a killing.
It's unfortunate the Marlins have fallen off already this fast over a 3-year span, but even a guy like a Sandy Alcantara just doesn't have it right now. And you look at the bullpen for the Marlins, it's a bottom 4 bullpen in all Major League Baseball. Both of those kind of go hand in hand, where they don't have a guy that's getting them good length out of their starting rotation, then they're handing it off to a terrible bullpen, and that bullpen can't get it done either. And so when you're going up against a team like the Dodgers, you know, you can probably bet on some runs being scored by the Dodgers. And on the other side, you know, the Marlins do have a couple guys in the lineup that can theoretically get a good, you know, hit in here and there, and especially against a potential sort of TBD starter who isn't one of, you know, the Yamamotos or the Dustin Mays in that Dodgers rotation. And for that reason, I'm right there with you. I like the over, and I even like kind of betting a team total over on kind of either side of that coin there.
Yeah, I can very much see that. I think the runs are going to be very, very plentiful out there, and that's going to be a fun one, and this one should be interesting as well. Looks like the wind is going to be blowing in Wrigley Field, especially towards the middle/back half of the game between the Cubs and the Giants. And Robbie Ray has been either Robbie hip hip hooray or Robbie boo. You've got nothing in between with him. And he's going up against Ben Brown of the Cubs. Right now the Cubs are about a minus 130 or so favorite. How do you take a look at this one? Because with Robbie Ray, he's either going to be amazing or he's going to be awful. And you always talk about first 5 pitchers and the guys you want back. I would think that Robbie Ray is the complete opposite, because he's either going to cash you that first 5 very easily, or he's going to get lit up like a Christmas tree and your bet is going to be dead after 5 hitters.
Right, and it's one of those things that when I was coming on the show at kind of the early part of April and talking about Robbie Ray, you know, I compared him to Carlos Rodon, obviously both lefties, and both have those kind of that blow-up inning factor, but Carlos Rodon's actually been really fantastic. Robbie Ray is still Robbie Ray, so maybe he's just a one-of-one type of character. And on the other side, Ben Brown, he's also a guy that if you want to fade the Cubs, and right now the Cubs are playing really good baseball, he's one of those pitchers in the rotation that I would look to kind of go against. And so that opens the door, I think, to a first 5 over, or even a potential Giants money line spot through the first 5 innings. I really do think that you can catch value on both of those things. Even if Robbie Ray goes out there and gives up 3 earned runs, I think Ben Brown can do him 1 more and give up 4 earned runs in this type of game.
Yeah, with our good friend in Robbie Ray, man. It's relatively rough to say the least. I will say, though, that Giants bullpen is good and that Cubs bullpen has not been. So that's something that you want to take into account, but I find that one to be intriguing. And this is a fun one. Hunter Green and Grant Holmes, relative pick'em game between the Atlanta Braves and the Reds, total of 8. How do you view this one? Because with the Braves, they seem to be rounding into form. Hunter Green, he has been in peak form himself, but I actually like what I've seen out of Grant Holmes as well. And with the Atlanta Braves, it's just a case of how much do you buy into sort of that bounce back for them in this game?
I'm a full believer. I think a lot of their issues in terms of the offensive side of things in the early going had to do with Matt Olson going off to a slow start, Austin Riley going after a slow start, Marcell Ozuna being hurt, Sean Murphy being hurt, and then Alex Verdugo. What a surprise, fantastic pickup that's been in the early, you know, on maybe like first couple weeks here. I can't remember when exactly they picked him up, but my goodness, this lineup is starting to round into form. Even Eli White is starting to hit the ball really well for the Braves. And in terms of this game, even though it's Hunter Green, he is a guy that likes to live in the zone and challenge hitters. And when you have a lineup like this that has both lefties and righties hitting the ball well, I really do think he's going to be tasked with one of his hardest challenges of the season. And for that reason, I really do like the Braves on a potential run line spot here. I also like just the overall over of 7.5 runs. I feel like both teams are going to get their licks in here on the starters.
Yep, I'm mostly seeing 8 with regards to that total, but even at the 8, I do like the over myself, so I'm right there with you. And for Grant Holmes, I do think that there's a little bit of positivity with him as well. Getting him at a pick'em line, being able to get this below minus 105 is something that I'd be looking at as well. And I think that this is one of the more intriguing teams in all of baseball as well. How in the world do we play a Texas Rangers team that the record isn't awful, but their offense sure has been, but Tyler Mahle's been really good. I don't think Tyler Mahle's going to continue to have a sub-150 ERA, but I even remember when he was with the Reds, he had one of the best road ERAs in all of baseball. Last year, he was fully healthy with them. Going against Tanner Houck and the Boston Red Sox, total on this game is 9, and I just look at this game, and I recognize that Tanner Houck has that high ERA, but much of that was due to one horrible start against the Tampa Bay Rays, and with the way that the Rangers are hitting, I could easily see an under here.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And to your point on Tyler Mahle, we know that he's going to potentially live up to that upside of being a really good pitcher, potentially even an all-star level pitcher, but sub 1.5, I just don't know if that's sustainable. Kind of in that Max Fried boat, but to a lesser degree, I think, because Max Fried, I think, actually can produce those types of numbers for long stretches. Tyler Mahle is somebody I think is going to end up around that 3 ERA range when it's all said and done. But, to your point, the Rangers and their lineup have been an absolute disaster. I think a lot of that comes down to kind of the stubbornness to keep Jock Peterson in a premium lineup position, because if you don't have a lot of guys who are swinging the bat well, maybe your 2 and 4 hitter and Jock Peterson probably shouldn't be hitting sub 100. Is kind of my gauge on that there. But
half the Mendoza line.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane. And when it comes to base running, even if he hits the wall on a gapper, he might not make it to second base at this point. He looks out of shape and is holding down the 4 and 2 spots. That's probably as worse as it can get in terms of lineup construction right now. But until they fix that in the lineup, I really do like these Rangers unders, especially when you have a guy like a Tyler Mahle on the side here.
Absolutely, man, that Jock Peterson 0 for 42 streak, which he shouldn't have even busted that on the hit that he got. That should have been scored in error, and they just decided, Jock Peterson has struggled enough, we'll just give him the hit for the heck of it. So there was that aspect of things. And anything else that you're looking at in terms of this Wednesday card, because we've got all 3 teams in action, few TBDs, but overall pretty solid slate of action.
Yeah, one of my favorite pitchers in Major League Baseball in terms of betting value consistently is Merrill Kelly. And tomorrow he's taking on a Mets team that I really do think is very good, but Kodai Senga is another guy that I think is going to experience some negative regression. The strikeout numbers aren't there. He's giving up a lot of hard contact. It just happens to be at outfielders and infielders at the corners. And I do feel like the Arizona Diamondbacks are a lineup that can make a guy like that pay. They didn't the first time around last week, but I do think they're going to have a chance to really get after Kodai in this game. And Merrill, every single start this year, he's given up 2 earned or less outside of 1 blow-up outing against the Yankees. And I do feel like he's going to kind of produce the same type of results to the first 5 or 6 innings in this game here.
Absolutely. I think that this is going to be a tremendous one. I'm looking forward to looking at that Diamondbacks versus Mets game. That's going to be one of the better games of the day, and one of the best guests on the show is you, my friend Rob. You're doing an absolutely tremendous job taking a look at this great game of baseball. So let the good people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Well, hey, Greg, I always appreciate having me on, man. And for those who are wanting to follow my Major League Baseball bets, you can do so on Twitter/X at RobDFB, and also on my YouTube channel, which is just my name, Rob Donaldson. But as always, Greg, I really appreciate having me on, man.
Always great to be able to get Rob aboard. He does such a tremendous job taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball, and always lends tremendous insight. So big thanks to Rob for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And coming up next, it is that time of the podcast to give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Wednesday as we have them all.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Rob Donaldson. He does such great work with the show/podcast, Rob's Best Bets. Every single time he joins me, he lends such amazing insights. Did so once again today. So big thanks to Rob for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Wednesday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at GUnit_81, and we're going to go in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games. Any interleague games, those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So, how about if we do get things started with 951, 952 on the card? It is the Pittsburgh Pirates. They walk the plank on the road to face off against the St. Louis Cardinals as Sonny Gray goes for the Cards. Mitch Keller is on the bump for the Buccos, and total on this game is 7.5, over is -115. The under is -105. For St. Louis, they're aiming between -165 to -175 favorites. You're between +140 to +150 is that number on Pittsburgh. And with the Pirates, I did set them as a +174 underdog. If you're looking to lay the run line of the St. Louis Cardinals, as is usually the case, a lot of places do not have run line prices up. The only place that I'm seeing is at FanDuel, and typically they don't have the world's greatest run line prices. You're able to get a +118 on that, and +118 would be enough for me to be able to take a shot here on that run line. I would need at least a +112 to be able to do so. For Sonny Gray, since he got to the St. Louis Cardinals, has been far better at home rather than on the road. Now, for Sonny Gray, he does come in a little bit of struggling, as his ERA thus far this season has been a 4.12 fielding dependent, more around a 3.98, as he is giving up 1.4 home runs per 9 innings, has allowed 3+ runs in each out of his last 3 starts. But for Sonny Gray, what he has going for him is that since he got to St. Louis, he has been much better at home rather than on the road. We've seen a little bit of reversal of that this season, but he's still posting up an ERA about 1.5 better when he is at home rather than when he is on the road. And for Mitch Keller, this guy just simply has not been the same pitcher when he has been away from home himself, and he is down to 6.7 strikeouts per 9 innings this season. That is a career low for him. As for Keller, he does a relatively solid job of not giving out a ton of walks, about 2.8 walks per 9 innings, but the case is the case with this guy. He's posting up a career 4.11 ERA at home, a 5.10 ERA when he's on the road, so that just displays it right there. And for the Pittsburgh Pirates, this is not some sort of a lockdown bullpen, as you've had David Bednar ever since he got recalled from the minor league level look a little bit better, but he's still not peak David Bednar. Right now, you've had Colin Holderman be all over the place this season. 4.26 ERA for this bullpen that ranks 19th in all baseball. Now, the Cardinals are actually even worse. 4.37 ERA entering into the day on Wednesday, but I do have faith in Ryan Helsley being able to give you some good innings. Jojo Romero's had a rough start to the season. He should be able to pick it up. I like what Phil Matone brings to the table, and then you've got the likes of Dennis Santana, Caleb Ferguson on the flip side for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Those are guys that have had okay seasons thus far, but not necessarily guys that you do want to be trusting in. And when it comes to the St. Louis Cardinals lineup, you're not necessarily getting a ton of power out of these guys, but you've got enough guys that are able to move the line that is able to offset that, especially with Brendan Donovan hitting north of a 333. You've got Nolan Arenado's getting up there in years, along with Wilson Contreras starting to be able to come around a little bit after Contreras that really had a rough start to the season. He's now up to 5 home runs himself. Alec Burleson has started to move the line as he had a long homerless drought that he was able to end, and Victor Scott staying north of a 275 at the bottom of the fold. And for the Pirates, it's been Oneil Cruz, Brian Reynolds, and everyone else. They were the only 2 guys in the lineup yesterday with north of 3 home runs this season. And Andrew McCutchen, to his credit, still give you about a 350 on base. For Reynolds, he's had a tough time moving the line, while Oneil Cruz, he's up to about a 340 or so with regards to his on base. But you've got a lot of guys at the bottom of the fold, like Jared Trollo, Henry Davis, Alexander Canario, that are just giving you a big giant nothing burger. Sonny Gray should be able to go out there, lend a relatively solid start, though he's been a little bit shaky, and Keller certainly has been shaky on the road. I think that the Cardinals get to him. Looking at that run line of the St. Louis Cardinals at anything north of +112, and somebody told us 7.9, so here at the 7.5, I do like the over. 953, 954 on the betting board. It is the San Francisco Giants are on the road. They're facing off against the Chicago Cubs. Ben Brown is on the bump for the Cubs, and Robbie Ray says hip hip hooray to another start, as the San Francisco Giants are a +110 to a +118 underdog, anywhere between -126 to a -135. That number on the Cubs, currently no total up on this game, as this is a Wrigley Field game, and a if you're looking at the win situation, going to start out very light to begin the day, and then I would say right around like 1, 2 o'clock p.m. Central Time, so right around first pitch, that's when things really intensify. So I did set a total of a 7.8, which means that 7.5 or less, I'm going to be in on the over, and 8 or higher to the under end. For the Cubs, I can only set them as a minus 117 favorite, so plus 118 plus, that's going to be my buy point on the San Francisco Giants. And with Robbie Ray, you just never know what you're going to be able to get out of that guy, because for Robbie Ray, he's got really good strikeout stuff, a career 11 punch-outs per 9 innings. He also has given up nearly 5 walks per 9 innings as well. Overall, not a bad ERA, a 3.05 ERA, because he's done a pretty solid job of keeping the ball in the yard. He has given up about 1.2 home runs per 9 innings, 5 bombs allowed in his 38-plus innings thus far this season. That's not too bad, but you know what? With Robbie Ray, it's either going to be like 7 scoreless innings, or he's going to get banged around like a piñata, and he's going to bean about 5 batters. So there's really not a lot of in between there. Meanwhile, for Ben Brown, he's been able to come out of the bullpen, and he's looked very good for the Cubs with his swing and miss stuff, but he's just been allowing a lot of guys to be able to reach base cheaply with his 4 walks per 9 innings. So for Ben Brown, there should be a little bit of positivity. 4.88 ERA, 3.70 fielding independent, as he's been able to keep the ball in the yard, allowing less than a home run per 9 innings, but he does enter in some very interesting form, as in his last 5 starts, he has given up 5, 0, 1, 6, and 0 runs. So he has very much been all or nothing himself, and that makes things all the more interesting, because this has been a Chicago Cubs bullpen that has had their struggles this season. Porterage, who was so good for them last season, he has not been that thus far this season. You've been dealing with a few injuries, as I know that they've had in and out of the fold all season long. One of their main guys from a season ago, and Nate Pearson. They pick up Ryan Presley in the offseason, but I've got some trepidations with him. He was not good in his last few seasons with the Houston Astros, and on the flip side, this has been a San Francisco Giants bullpen that has been pretty sturdy all season long. Hayden Birdsong did act up on Monday, but overall, this is a bullpen that they entered in today on Tuesday, second in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA at 2.51. Spencer Bivens has been a relatively good long guy for this team. Randy Rodriguez, he's posting up a sub-3 ERA. Camilo Duvall, after he last season was not good, he's been able to pick it up very much so. And for the San Francisco Giants lineup, you don't necessarily have a bunch of guys that are going to go off for like 25 plus home runs or anything like that, but you've got a lot of guys that are going to move the line. Jung-Ho Lee has been able to above a 300 for this unit. Now Matt Chapman along with Wilmer Flores, so they've got 7 home runs thus far this season. Chapman, he does need to pick up that 210 batting average on base, not necessarily so bad. And for Willie Adames, it does appear as though things are starting to get in line with him, as he had a rough start to the season, but was able to have that multi-home run game about a week or so ago. And then Mikey Yastrzemski give you north of a 350 on-base percentage. That helps out. And for the Chicago Cubs, currently the number 1 team in the big leagues with regards to their overall lineup and their run scoring. They had all but one player in the lineup yesterday, hitting at least a 254, and that'd be Dansby Swanson, who's got 7 home runs. As Pete Crow Armstrong, C.A. Suzuki, Kyle Tucker, all at least 9 home runs this far this season, all doing a solid job of being able to find a way on base. Ian Happ has been really good in the leadoff spot as well. Michael Busch has maybe give you a little bit of power, so you do like that. But again, wind appears as though it's going to be blowing in quite heavily once they get up to bat in the, shall we say, middle part of the game. So that is going to be hurting them quite a bit. And I do think that that keeps the San Francisco Giants lively in this one. I do think that that bullpen is going to be able to steer them in the right direction. Plus 118 or higher, I'm looking at the Giants on the money line, and with the win situation, 7.5 or less, I'm in on the over. 8 or higher to the under. I set my total of 7.8. 955, 956 on the betting board. The New York Mets that throw to face off against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Merrill Kelly goes for the stakes. Kodai Senga is on the bump for the Metropolitans, and the Mets do find themselves anywhere between minus 124 to minus 130 favorites, and between plus 108 to plus 116. Then I'm on Arizona with a total of 9. Unders between minus 115 to minus 120, and the overs even to minus 105. And for the Mets, I did set them on the money line at a minus 122. And when we get the dime lines out, there's a good chance that I will be able to get that minus 122 / I'll be able to get a little bit of plus number on the Arizona Diamondbacks. So a little bit more wait and see there, but I do like this 9 under with Kodai Senga. The walks have been an issue since coming over to the States. He has been giving out nearly 4 walks per 9 innings, but he does a really good job of being able to mitigate hard contact. As thus far this season for Senga, $1.38 ERA. That'll be going northward. He's got more of a 276 fielding dependent, but he's allowed just 1 home run in 32 2/3 innings. Swing and miss stuff has been a little bit down this year with about 8.5 punch-outs per 9 innings, but he's also reduced on the walks to about 3.3 walks per 9 innings. So have a little bit of the negative, have a little bit of the positive, and for Merrill Kelly, he had that one just disastrous start against the New York Yankees earlier in the season. He got completely blowtorched in that one, gave up 9 runs, and ever since then has allowed 2 earned runs or fewer in each out of his last 5 starts. Overall, that 4.06 ERA, if you take out that bad start, he has been actually very rock solid thus far this season. He's giving up about 1.2 home runs per 9 innings, and he, without question, is giving guys a good opportunity to be able to hit the ball, as he's only been getting about 6.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. That said, this has been a case where with the New York Mets, it's been a little bit all or nothing with them. They've been able to hit a bit better on the road rather than at home because the conditions out there at Citi Field have not necessarily been the world's greatest this year. And you do have a guy in Pete Alonso who's giving you north of a 450 on base. Juan Soto took him a little bit of time to be able to get the deep ball going, but a week or so ago was able to have that multi-home run game, ironically enough, against the Arizona Diamondbacks. So that's got him jump started. Francisco Lindor, after a rough first 2 or 3 weeks of the season, he's approaching right around about a 300 with his batting average. He's been able to give you some good power as well. And then you do have Francisco Alvarez now back in the fold as well. That cheers up the catcher spot, though Mark Vientos still struggling with Starling Marte. And then for the Arizona Diamondbacks, Corbin Carroll up to 10 bombs this season. And I'm still convinced that this guy was injured last season. Like, what we saw last season was an injured Corbin Carroll. I think that he had like a really weird slide towards the back half of the 2023 season in which his shoulder subluxed, and I think that that really caused him to struggle last season. But and you've got Geraldo Perdomo hitting darn near 300, and Eugenio Suarez is not hitting for average, but 10 home runs this far this season. They're getting back Lourdes Gurriel, Ketel Marte. That helps them out quite a bit. Randall Grichuk is off to a rough start to the season, but you know that he'll pick it up, and then Josh Naylor does a great job of moving the line. Now for the Diamondbacks, are in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, and that's because you've got Justin Martinez, AJ Puck both on the injured list, but I do like some of these guys, like Orion Thompson over the past few seasons has been steady north of 5 ERA thus far this season. He should be able to pick that up. Jalen Beeks along with Shelby Miller have been good in long rolls thus far this season, and for the Mets this has been a top 8 team with regards to their bullpen ERA, as you've got the shorter guys in Reed Garrett along with Ryan Stanek doing a solid job being able to hold it down. Stanek is starting to approach about a 4.25 ERA, but the long guys like Oscar Barzoba, Max Kranick, throw in there Jose Buto. Out of those 3 guys, only Buto really has an ERA that's above about a 2.75, and he's more around about a 3.3. And then Edwin Diaz, he's been a little bit shaky as a closer, should be able to do just enough for the Mets to be able to get the job done here. If we could get down to a minus 122, going to be looking at that Mets money line, and did some I told it at 8.7, so here at the 9, I'm going to be in on that total under as well. 957, 958 on the betting board. The LA Dodgers hit the road. They're facing off against the Miami Marlins. Valentin Beloso is on the bump for Miami. It is old to be determined on the bump for the Dodgers. This game is off the board. From a lot of speculation, this is expected to be a bit of a bullpen game. I've been seeing Landon Knack out there as a starter. I would not be surprised if you see like Landon Knack throw 3 or 4 innings and the rest of it being a bullpen game. So whether it is Knack or whether it is a true bullpen game, this is going to be a relatively similar price, as I did set the Dodgers at a minus 241 on the money line. We're willing to go up to about a minus 150 on the run line, and then set a total to where a 9 or less. I'm going to be in on the over 9.5 or higher. The under now for Miami. They have played nearly 70% of their home games to the over since the beginning of the 2024 season. One of the most remarkable things I've ever seen in my life. We should see that cool off just a little bit, and they have been able to find a little bit of power out of Augustin Ramirez, who he's a young gun, I believe, DH/catcher, has been able to do a nice job of hitting for this team. I think we got Kyle Sowers, who's been able to give you 6 bombs. He's supplying north of 350 on base. Matt Mervis, not hitting for any average, but he's been able to give you power. But other than those guys, it's a lot of station-to-station baseball. Dave Myers is hitting well above a 300. Xavier Edwards had that cycle last season. He's been able to give you about a 325 on base, but some of these guys like AC Sanchez, Connor Norby are off to rough starts to the season. Meanwhile, for the LA Dodgers, no rough starts to the season for the likes of Freddie Freeman and Shohei Ohtani. Ohtani up to 9 bombs. He's giving you nearly a 400 on base. Freddie Freeman nearly a 400 on base. Max Muncy, it's been rough for him along with Michael Conforto. They need to get a little bit more out of those guys, but when Will Smith is out there, he's getting jiggy with it. He's been able to give you about a 400 on base. They pick up Ha-Sung Kim as well. I think that he's going to be able to give this team a heck of a lot of something coming on over from South Korea as well. And then for the LA Dodgers, this has been a bullpen that has been solid but not necessarily amazing. They're dealing with quite a few injuries of their own, having on the injured list currently someone like a Michael Kopech has been hurting them. Bernardo Gratterall being out along with Blake Trinan has hurt them, but still have the likes of Alex Vesia, Kirby Yates, Tanner Scott. All three of these guys relatively reliable with a sub-3.5 ERA. And then if you do get Landon Knack, very much a pitch and contact guy. This is not someone that's going to be blowing you away by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think that there's quite a bit of upside with him. He doesn't necessarily put base runners on cheaply. Now he's made a few appearances thus far this season, has been wobbly with a 7.27 ERA. Last year that was more around a 3.65. That was backed up by a 4.72 fielding dependent because he did allow 1.8 home runs per 9 innings, but pitching in Miami should be able to help mitigate that a little bit. And for Valentin Beloso, he's not necessarily backed up by the world's greatest bullpen. Anthony Veziano, Anthony Bender have actually been pretty rock solid in that bullpen, but that said, when you do get into some of these guys like a Calvin Fauché, that could be a relative roll of the dice for them. And for Mr. Valentin Beloso, it has been a case where he just has not been able to get a lot of strikeouts whatsoever. This man was quite lucky last season, as last season 3.67 ERA, but a 5.73 fielding dependent, giving up 2 home runs per 9 innings. And this season, he's kept the ball in the yard a little bit more. 1 home run allowed in 12 2/3 innings across 3 starts, but he's also giving up more walks than he's getting strikeouts, and that's led to a 5.12 fielding independent. I do think that he's going to put on a lot of Dodgers cheaply, and I do think that this is going to be a higher scoring game, 9 or less than on the over 9.5 or the under. And for the Dodgers, we'll lay up to a minus 150 on that run line. I would need at least a plus 242 to take shot on that Marlins money line. 959, 960 on the betting board. The Cincinnati Reds, and yes, we are on to Cincinnati. They hit the road. They're facing off against the Atlanta Braves. Grant Holmes is on the bump for the Atlanta Braves, and Hunter Green goes for Cincinnati. And this is a relatively pick'em game, as for Cincinnati, they're anywhere between a minus 112 to a minus 107, very slight favorite. And between minus 103 to minus 110 is that number on Atlanta. 8 is the total. Under is minus 115 to minus 120. Over is between even a minus 105. Set the Braves at a minus 104. Right now, I'm seeing as good as a minus 103. And if they open up as very, very slight underdogs, I'd be willing to back them on the money line. Now, for Hunter Green, he's actually been better throughout his career when he's been on the road rather than at home, especially in terms of being able to give up the deep ball. And I like what I've seen out of Hunter Green this far this season. He had that one bad start, but other than what he gave up that 5 spot on the road against the Baltimore Orioles, he's been rock solid. 2.53 ERA, feeling dependent more around to 3.32, but he's getting about 11.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. Deep ball has been hurting him a little bit with 1.5 home runs per 9 innings, but he's now giving up fewer than 2 walks per 9 innings as well, so that command has been rock solid. Meanwhile, for Grant Holmes, we've got a 4.24 ERA. He's fielding dependent closer to about a 5. His strikeout numbers have been good with a little bit over 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he is giving up too many walks. He's been giving up darn near 5 walks per 9 innings, so that's going to be a little bit of an issue against a Cincinnati Reds team that has been one of the top teams in the National League in terms of runs per game on the road, but that comes with a big asterisk. They had that 24 spot that they put up against the Baltimore Orioles that is very much warping their numbers. They've got Austin Hayes, Christian Encarnacion Strand currently on the injured list, so I like what I've seen out of Neovalli Marte, who's been able to give you darn near a 300 average. He's been hitting for a little bit of power. Now they've got Tyler Stevenson back in the fold, as he and Jose Trevino are a really good catching duo in terms of hitting, and Austin Wins is actually really good when he's gotten opportunities as well. Ellie De La Cruz has been striking out a ton, but that when he gets on base, he's able to swipe some bags, and I do like what he's able to bring to the table overall. So all in all, it is a solid lineup with Kevin Lux being about a 300 plus for the team, and for the Atlanta Braves, it's starting to pick up for them a little bit more. Alex Verdugo coming off the injured list and giving this team north of a 300 average. That's rock solid. Marcell Ozuna north of a 4 on base. Power number down a little bit from a season ago, but he still gives you 5 home runs in the first 100 bats of the season. Matt Olson seems to be picking it up, though, that 225 average a little bit, shall we say, worrisome. And for Sean Murphy, out of his 15 hits entering into yesterday, 7 have flown over the fence, so no average whatsoever, but he's hitting for power. Michael Harris at the bottom of the fold, need a little bit more out of him, but Austin Riley right now looking like a bona fide stud. And for both of these teams, the bullpens, if you look at the overall ERA, it's better for the Cincinnati Reds, but I do think that these are two very similar bullpens. As for the Atlanta Braves, it's not great, it's not terrible. I've always liked Dylan Lee in that bullpen. He, Rossiel Iglesias, Tezbel Hernandez are all giving you a sub-3.5 ERA. When you get into Aniel De Los Santos, Aaron Bummer, guys like that, turns into a bit of a roll of the dice. And for the Cincinnati Reds, we've got a lot of guys I think when it's all said and done, we're going to have a sub-3.5 ERA. They're dealing with Sam Moll being on the injured list, and Emilio Pagano has been rock solid thus far this season, but man, I don't have any faith in him whatsoever. But Taylor Rogers, Tony Santillan, Scott Barlow, these are guys that are pretty rock solid. I do think that you're going to be able to get some good innings out of them. Graham Ashcraft can be a long guy, but he can also be a little bit erratic, so it's an interesting circumstance. At a minus 104 better, I'm looking at the Braves on the money line, and did make my total at 88.1. I think that both teams approach 4 runs here, so looking at that over to go along with the Braves money line. 961, 962 on the betting board. The Seattle Mariners are on the road facing off against the Athletics, as you've got Gunnar Hunter Hoagland, who's on the bump for the A's, and Brian Wu says woohoo to another start. And for Seattle, you're going to be getting them anywhere between minus 136 to a minus 150. And between plus 126 to a plus 131 is that number on the A's. The total on this game is 9. The under is minus 110 to a minus 115. And the over is anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 110. And with this total, I did set mine at a 10.2. I am going to be looking at the over in this spot. The thin air out there in Sacramento is allowing a lot of deep balls, and I'm going to be willing to take a shot on Hoagland and company. I'm willing to take a plus 126 or higher with regards to the A's money line for Brian Wu, 2.58 ERA, and his strikeout stuff was very good as a rookie. Last year it fell off the table. Now he's somewhere between A and B. He has been able to get about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, 2.58 ERA, get along just 0.7 home runs per 9 innings, but again, the Sacramento ballpark is surrendering so much right now that I do think that the A's jump all up on him. I do think that with this Oakland A's / Sacramento A's lineup, whatever you want to call them at this point, I do think that they're going to be able to do a solid job with having Tyler Soderstrom being able to give you 9 home runs. That's been in a little bit of a drought recently, but still doing a nice job being able to put bat to ball. You've been able to get a lot of good production as well out of Brent Rooker, who's been picking it up with regards to his on-base percentage recently and traded into yesterday with 9 home runs, so love to see that. And then you do have guys who are able to move the line. As Jacob Wilson draws no walks whatsoever, but he and Miguel Andujar are both hitting above the 300. Drew Rochelle has been off to a rough start to the season, but I have confidence that he's going to be able to pick it up as well. And though Shea Langoliers does not hit for a lot of average, Shea does bang for 7 home runs this far this season. And on the flip side, you've got yourself a lineup that has been very, very solid for the Seattle Mariners. 5.5 runs per game on the road. That leads the American League. And for Seattle, it's been all about Big Dumper Cal Raleigh giving you 12 home runs entering in the day yesterday. Luke Raley's on the injured list, but that's really not an issue. They pick up Leody Taveras, and I would say that he's probably going to be able to hit better than Luke Raley was to begin the season. Julio Rodriguez, just a patented slow start for him, hitting at 2 of 6 with 5 home runs. And Randy Arozarena, he's been solid with regards to on base, but hitting just a 224. He's dealing with a little bit of an injury as well, but Dylan Moore has been able to give you more. He's been able to hit for north of a 275. He's giving you some relatively solid power as well. And then for the Seattle Mariners, the bullpen is getting a little bit better. They've got Matt Brash off the injured list. That helps them out. Gabe Spire, Colin Snyder are able to give you a sub-35 ERA, but Edward Bizardo, guys like this, Taylor Cicado, they're a roll of the dice getting to the closer in Andres Munoz, who's one of the best in all of baseball. And then for the A's, this is a roll of the dice with regards to their bullpen as well. Mason Miller has not looked like his dominant self over the last few days. He should be able to get back into form there. And then you've had Tyler Ferguson and Justin Turner actually be really good in this bullpen. Both have a sub-2 ERA, but when you do get into something like a Mitch Spence, TJ McFarland, you've had some of these just absolute jokes of pitchers go out there like a Noah Murdoch. That's been relatively rough for them, but it does feel like the A's bullpen getting a little bit better. And for Hoagland, he had a really good MLB debut. Gives up 1 run in 6 innings against the Miami Marlins, so that was against the Miami Marlins, and now you have to face off against the number 1 team in the big leagues in terms of runs per game on the road. And I'm sure that he's familiar with pitching in Sacramento, and it's not necessarily a lot of fun. And when you take a look at what Hoagland did at the minor league level, he wasn't like he was bad or anything like that, but he wasn't necessarily amazing. He last season when he was over in the PCL for Vegas, he posted up a 5.88 ERA. That was more of a 2.84 ERA at the AA level. And if you know anything about the Pacific Coast League, the PCL, it is a juice ball league. It is very difficult to be able to get anything going whatsoever. But throughout his minor league career, it was only about 8 strikeouts per 9 innings, kept the ball in the air, but he's not really going to blow you away. And I do think that the Seattle Mariners generate some runs there. But again, do think that this A's bullpen is very much improved. I did set my total 10.2. I think that you get a slugfest like the over, and I do like the A's at plus 126 or higher on that money line. 963, 964 on the betting board. It is the Boston Red Sox, and they are going to be playing us the Walker Texas Rangers. Tyler Mahle goes for the Rangers. Tanner Houck is on the bump for Boston. Boston a minus 115 to minus 122 favorite. Between even money to plus 109 is that number on Texas. 9 is the total. Over is minus 120, and the under is even. And I did set my total at 8.6, so I'm going to be looking at this total under for Tyler Mahle. He's been really good with the Texas Rangers this far this season. I just still go back to what he was able to do a few seasons ago when he was with the Cincinnati Reds, and he was oh so dominant when he was on the road that season. And he has been really able to show that form this far this season. I don't think that he's going to continue quite this. It's a $1.19 ERA. Feeling he is more around a 248, but he has yet to allow a home run in 37 and 2/3 innings. Strikeout stuff is down. He's only getting about 7.5 punch-outs per 9 innings, but that said, he's been able to do a really good job of being able to hold down the fort for this team, giving up about 3.5 walks per 9 innings, but the command has gotten better, 2 walks or fewer, allowed him 4 out of his last 5 starts. And then on the flip side, Tanner Houck has always had a little bit of a higher ERA when he's been at home rather than when he's been on the road. He has that 6.38 ERA, but that is a very much warped number. He gives up those 12 runs against the Tampa Bay Rays a few weeks ago, and that throws things into a big giant tizzy. If you take that start out, it's not like he's been incredible, but he hasn't necessarily been the world's biggest bum or anything like that. He is giving up about 1.7 home runs per 9 innings. That is a big issue for him, but this is also a Texas Rangers team that ranks at the bottom 3 in the big leagues with regards to runs per game, as they've been about as offensive as Ned Flanders as far this season. You've had a bunch of guys be able to hit below the Bedell's Live 200. Marcus Semien, Jock Peterson, throw in there Jake Berger. These guys just have not been able to step up for the team. Now Josh Young, John Heim at the bottom of the fold, entered into yesterday hitting about a 275. You're getting Corey Seager back. He's been able to give you about a 345 on base, and Wyatt Langford, to his credit, 6 bombs with a north of 350 on base entering into yesterday. Meanwhile, for the Boston Red Sox, Sharon Duran has been able to give you about a 270 average after a rough start to the season. He's picking it up. Alex Bregman has had a really nice start to the season. 8 bombs and a nearly 400 on base for a guy that is traditionally a little bit of a slow starter. You've had a few guys be able to step up like a Weiler Abreu, Trevor Story, which has been big because Cedane Rafaela has been rough for the team. Carlos Narvaez is giving you a whole bunch of nothing. Tristan Casas is out for the year, but Tristan Casas was not giving you too much either. And I have my question marks with both of these bullpens. For the Red Sox, they've got to roll to Chapman as their closer, and that's all I need to say. But Liam Hendricks, he's coming off of just everything that he battled in his personal life, but you still wonder where he's going to be at as a pitcher. So far, so good in the small sample size. You've been able to have Greg Weiser give you a few okay innings, but he's rolled the dice. And for the Rangers, hasn't been awful with regards to the bullpen. Robert Garcia's giving you a sub 250 ERA, but Luke Jackson has been pretty awful as a closer. You've got Chris Martin, who's been able to do a nice job holding down the fort. You've got these guys like Hobie Milner, Sean Armstrong, not amazing, not terrible. So it's an interesting circumstance with the Rangers. I'd be willing to take them at a plus 112 or higher on the money line. I did set my money line price at a minus 111, so we're going to see where things move from here, but I'm thinking when it's all said and done, I should be able to get a little bit north of plus 110 on that Rangers money line. That would be putting me in on them, and I did set my total at an 8.6. Hulk, outside of that one really bad start, has been solid enough, so I'm going to have the under, and I'm looking at that money line of the Rangers in all likelihood. 965, 966 on the betting board. It is the Chicago White Sox, and they're going to be on the road facing off against the Kansas City Royals as Michael Wacha, and if he gives up a lot of runs, he becomes the dying Pac-Man voice. Michael Waka, 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 waka. He goes for the Royals, and you've got Jonathan Cannon, who's on the bum for the Southsiders. And with the White Sox, you're going to be getting them as a big underdog, anywhere between plus 180 and plus 190. And with the Royals, you're going to be laying in that neighborhood about a minus 202 to a minus 220. And so on this game, it is between 8 and 8.5 on the 8. The over is minus 115. The under is minus 105 on the 8.5. Under is minus 120, and the over is even. Set by tell is 7.7. I'm going to be in on the under. The Chicago White Sox are averaging about 3.2 runs per game thus far this season on the road, and man, this has been a relatively rough offense to say the least. And you've got a bunch that has been just very much up and down in terms of finding power, as Andrew Benintendi has been able to give you 5 home runs thus far this season. Luis Robert has been able to give you a few bombs himself, but man, this has been a squad that has been having a very rough time of it. Lennon Sosa sitting a little bit above a 250, and he's right now your main man in terms of being able to move the line, get on base. Edgar Quiero as a backup catcher has actually been halfway decent, so we'll see if there's upside there, but I just feel like the stink of this team is seeping into all their good players because Andrew Vaughn has been just absolutely awful for this team this far this season. Then on the flip side, you've got a Kansas City Royals team that they've been a bottom 3 team with regards to runs per game as well. You do have Vinny Pasquantino up to 6 home runs this far this season, but Salvador Perez is hitting at 225. He has not been able to give you a whole heck of a lot of power. Miguel Garcia has been hitting above a 300. Bobby Witt Jr., though the power numbers are down, he's still been able to give you north of a 370 in terms of that on base. Jonathan India, though, not give you too much. Drew Waters is finding a way to move the line, which you do like to see, and what I actually really like for the Royals has been this bullpen. John Schreiber is giving you a sub-3 ERA. Carlos Estevez, Lucas Ursic, a really good 8th and 9th inning duo, so these guys have been absolutely superb. And then on the flip side, you've got a bullpen of the Chicago White Sox. Well, it's the Chicago White Sox bullpen. There's not much more that needs to be said, though. Mike Facil has been able to give you a sub-2 ERA. That's actually very encouraging for this team, but now Frazier Allard, who is rocking a 6 ERA, and sadly he was not their worst bullpen piece, he's now on the injured list. You've got Brandon Eisert, who's posting up north of 5 ERA. Stephen Wilson, in his very limited time at the big league level this season, has actually been halfway decent, but yeah, it's really hard to have a lot of faith in these guys. And now you've got Andrew Benintendi, who's right now dealing with a little bit of an injury to hurt that lineup even further. And for Jonathan Cannon, I don't think that he's the world's worst starter. Now, he's not the Mona Lisa Vito of starting pitchers or anything like that, as his swing and miss stuff is not necessarily that great as of right now, but for the Cannon, he's been pretty solid in terms of being able to keep things out in front of him, giving up about 1.2 home runs per 9 innings, nothing great, nothing terrible, up to about 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. The 4 walks per 9 innings is a little bit less than savory, but I do think that for Michael Wacha, he's going to be able to go out there, lend a relatively good start here for the Royals, because for one, he's facing off against the Chicago White Sox lineup, and for two, he's been pretty rock solid. Despite the 1-4 record, he's got a 3.25 fielding independent, 3.52 ERA. He's been giving up only a half home run per 9 innings. His main 7 starts, he's given up just 2 bombs this season. His swing and miss stuff is down to about 6.8 strikeouts per 9 innings, but I do think that he goes out there, gets the job done against the White Sox team that's not been anything to save their lives. So did something I told 7.7. I like the under of the Royals. I'd be willing to go up to a minus 114 on that run line. Most places have not posted up a run line price as of yet. The only one that I'm really seeing is over at FanDuel, and right now they've got that run line price at about a minus 102. Would be willing to lay that, and I'm going to be in on this total under 967, 968 on the betting board. The Baltimore Orioles hit the road they're facing off against the Minnesota Twins. Simeon Woods Richardson is on the bump for the Twins. It is to be determined on the bump for the Orioles. This game is off the board. CBS Sports was reporting that Charlie Morton might be getting the start, and oh goodness gracious, if Charlie Morton gets the start here. Now that would probably indicate a bullpen game, because Charlie Morton is out coming out of the bullpen. He is no longer a primary starter, so I think that you're going to get a poo-poo platter of different pitchers. You're probably going to be seeing some Keegan Aiken. You're probably going to be seeing some Brian Baker, and then you hope and pray if you're the Baltimore Orioles that you're able to stay relatively close to be able to bring in Junior Cano, Felix Bautista, who've been relatively rock solid in that bullpen. So I set the Twins at a minus 166, want to lay up to a minus 165 on that money line, plus 167 or higher. Looking at the O's, and then somebody told to wear a 9 or less. I'm going to be in on the over 9.5 or higher. The under. As for Simeon Woods Richardson, he's been pretty much about as league average of a pitcher as it gets. He's posting up an ERA for his career that's hovering right around about a 4. He gets between 8 and 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. He gives up for his career about 3.3 walks per 9 innings. Swinging himself has been a little bit up this year with about 9.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, and again rocking a 4.03 ERA, about a league average pitcher as of right now. And if you get Charlie Morton, good gosh. I mean, he's posting up an ERA that's hovering right around 10. He's been giving up hard contact as if he's a human piñata, and that's not great to say the least. And for the Baltimore Orioles, this has not been a bad lineup. I will say, you need to get a little bit more out of Gunnar Henderson. He's been hitting less than 235. He's not necessarily been able to give you a whole heck of a lot of power, so that's been very much less than savory for this group. But you still do have quite a few guys that have been able to do a relatively solid job of being able to put bat to ball. Cedric Mullins has really been the main man thus far this season. 7 home runs, giving you north of a 370 on base. Ryan O'Hearn has really impressed me as well. For O'Hearn, 7 home runs, hitting above a 300, going yesterday. Jackson Holiday, he's not giving you a ton of power, but he's moving the line. But Ryan Mountcastle, Adley Rutschman, Alonth Henderson, these guys hitting at 230 or lower. You just need to find a little bit more there. And on the flip side, it's been a Minnesota Twins lineup that has been dealing with quite a few injuries thus far this season, with Royce Lewis, shock, surprise, injured once again to begin the season. But I mean, that said, you've got a guy in Trevor Larnach that seems like he's starting to pick it up a little bit more as he's given the team 4 bombs. He's still been relatively down with regards to his on-base percentage, and Byron Buxton, he's up to hitting about a 250. The on-base percentage has not necessarily been amazing, but he's starting to give you 6+ home runs this season, and it looks like Lewis might be able to go in this game as well. It looks like they're activating him just off the injured list, so we'll see what he gets there. Probably going to take him a few games to be able to get into form, but Ty France has been able to give you north of a 330 on-base. Willie Castro has been up and down all season long, but I like what I'm seeing on Brixley, and this is about a league average bullpen when it comes to Minnesota Twins. Griffin Jax has a north of 5 ERA this season. He has not been reliable along Cole Sands, but I've been really liking what I've been seeing of the likes of Danny Kalum, who's been, I believe, giving up either 0 or 1 runs thus far this season. You on and some of the more filthy stuff that you're going to find at the big league level. So I do think that you get a relatively high total, 9 or less, in on the over 9.5 or higher. The under with the Twins, minus 165 or better, looking at that money line, and then plus 167 or higher, looking at the O's, 969, 970 on the betting board. The LA Angels are playing host to the Toronto Blue Jays, as Jose Barrios is on the bump for the Jays, and you say Kikuchi, I say that he's starting for the Angels, and the Angels are right around even money to plus 102. Meanwhile, between minus 112 to minus 120 is that number on Toronto. 8.5 is the total. Over is between minus 110 to a minus 120. The under is between even and minus 110. And when it comes to the Blue Jays, I set them as a plus 101 underdog. I pretty much made this a pick'em, so being able to get even money or better on the Angels, I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the money line now. I know how bad this Angels bullpen is. Good grief. I mean, you've got a bullpen that has north of a 6 ERA. There is nobody that's reliable in this bullpen. Even Kenley Jansen has started to poop the bed for this team. Like, when you trot out the Ryan Zephyrion, you probably feel relatively okay with him, but Reed Detmers has been absolutely terrible. All these other schlubs that they're bringing out there, like Michael Durrell Hicks, I mean, man, it's not good. But for Yusei Kikuchi, still has some relatively good swing and miss stuff. It's been a little bit down this year with about 8.2 strikeouts per 9 innings, but I think they rounds into form. The big concern is 4.7 walks per 9 innings, so he's got a 4.21 ERA, but closer to about a 5.04 fielding dependent. But as I always bring up with Jose Barrios, this is a guy that you love to back at home and you love to fade on the road. As right now for Barrios thus far this season, a 3.98 ERA, closer to about a 4.39 fielding dependent though. He's giving up about 3.5 walks per 9 innings. He's only getting about 8 strikeouts per 9 innings. So you need that to be a little bit better. But I mean, let's take a look at the entirety of Jose Barrios' career. At home, he's posting up an ERA of a 3.58 and on the road a 4.57 ERA. And on the road, his home runs per 9 rate jumps by over 50%. So it's not necessarily too tremendous. Now, this is a Blue Jays bullpen that it's better than the LA Angels bullpen because, well, they aren't the LA Angels bullpen. So that's not saying too much. But that said, you do have a few rolls of the dice. Now, you do have your main three guys that have been relatively solid, and Mason Fluharty has been good in this bullpen as well, but you've got Nick Sandlin currently out with an injury, Jeff Hoffman, Yimi Garcia, these guys have been able to give you sub-3 ERA, Chad Green more around about a 4.20 ERA, but Chad Green is someone that I feel like has some upside, and for the Blue Jays right now, what's hurting this team is their lack of the deep ball. Vlad Guerrero Jr. entered in this series along with Anthony Santander with 4 home runs apiece. And for Guerrero, still give you about a 360 on base, but Santander has been hitting below the Mendoza line 200. Andres Jimenez, he has for the season 3 home runs, but he's been stuck on 3 for quite some time. Ian Allen Rodin hitting below the Mendoza line 200. You need a little bit more there. Miles Straw's been moving the line, so that's been solid along George Springer. And Bo Bichette finally got his first home run season. He's hitting for a rock solid 290 average, but really not giving you a ton in terms of the power numbers. And then flip side for the LA Angels, the lineup itself has been able to hit a lot of home runs and for a lot of power, but you don't have a lot of guys that are finding a way to be able to get on base. Even though Mike Trout is on the injured list after he was hitting for 9 home runs, not even he was hitting for average. He was hitting below the Mendoza line of Jarren Nolan Chunal has been able to give it about a 320 on base. Logan O'Hoppe has been that main guy to be able to find a way to move the line. 9 home runs, hitting for about a 275. That's been good. And Maurice Soler, Taylor Ward, 6 home runs apiece, but Ward has given you a 218 on base entering into the series. Maurice Soler hitting about a 230 with about a 290 on base. Zach Neto has been able to give you a bit of something, and Kyron Paris, he had that hot start to the season, 5 home runs, but now he's hitting right around about a 215 as well, so you do have to have your question marks there. But that said, I've got massive question marks with Jose Barrios in this one, so I just only told 8.3. I do think that Barrios actually gives you an okay start here for the Blue Jays, and I do think that Kikuchi rounds into form a little bit for the Angels, so looking at the under and at even money or better, I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the Angels on the money line. 971, 972 on the betting board. It is the Cleveland Guardians on the road against the Washington Nationals, as Logan Allen is on the bump for the Gardos, and you got to be determined on the bump for the Nationals, so this game is off the board. When I was checking out ESPN and CBS Sports, they were projecting Mike Soroka to get the start. And if you do get Soroka, I set the Guardians at a minus 142 on the money line and made my total to wear a 9 or less. I'm looking at the over 9.5 or the under, so would need at least plus 143 to take a shot on the Washington Nationals. If you do indeed get Mike Soroka, and we don't know if we're going to actually get him or not, this guy's been just very, very rough ever since he had that nice start to his career. And it looked like he was really going to be able to round into something. It looked like he was going to be a really good pitcher for the Atlanta Braves, and then injuries happened, and ever since then things have fallen down the toilet bowl. As last season with the Chicago White Sox, he was getting about 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but was also giving up 5 walks per 9 innings, and a small sample size as far as this season of 1 start. He's given up 4 runs in 5 innings. Just, I don't know if he's ever going to be able to find it. And then on the flip side, you've got someone in Logan Allen who he had a really rough season last year, but he does appear to be rounding into form a little bit more this season. I still have my trepidations with him, as the command has been rough for him overall for his career. 3.7 walks per 9 innings, and his strikeout numbers are actually down this year to about 6.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, but after giving up 2 home runs per 9 innings last season, he has given up thus far this season just 3 bombs in 31 1/3 innings across 6 starts. Has done a nice job there. And the Guardians, even though their bullpen is a little bit down, Emmanuel Clase has not been the same this season. You got Paul Sewell currently on the injured list. You still have a far better bullpen with the Cleveland Guardians rather than the Washington Nationals, a Nationals bullpen that has an ERA that is well north of 6. And for the Nationals, you right now have 2 men in the bullpen that are providing a sub-5 ERA for this bunch, as you've been able to get that out of Kyle Finnegan along Jackson Rutledge, and everyone else has been very rough for this team. The likes of Jose Ferrer, Cole Henry, Jorge Lopez, You can't trust in any of these guys as of right now. And on the flip side, for the Cleveland Guardians, you still have the likes of Hunter Gaddis, Tim Herron. These guys have been able to do a solid job. Kate Smith really gave it up yesterday, but still, I feel much better about that bullpen. And for the Washington Nationals, this tends to be a little bit of an all-or-nothing team, as Keibert Ruiz has been able to about a 300 thus far this season. And you've had James Wood be able to supply some good wood with 10 home runs north of 370 on base, entering into Game 2 of that double dip yesterday. Alex Call just deserves more at-bats. I recognize that he doesn't hit for power, but this guy's hitting above a 300. And then you've got the likes of Jacob Young, Luis Garcia, Dylan Cruz. These guys hitting at 230 or lower. CJ Abrams has been able to give you a bit of power. Now he's hitting at 275, so that helps them. For the Cleveland Guardians, this is a very top-heavy lineup. Right now, Stephen Kwan at the top, giving you north of a 370 on base. He's been supplying 4 home runs. Kyle Manzardo, 8 home runs, but is not really doing the world's greatest job in terms of being able to move the line, as he's only hitting about a 215 for this unit. Jose Ramirez, so he's been able to supply 5 bombs. You want to see a little bit more out of you, along with Gabriel Urias sitting between about a 260 to 270 a piece. But when it comes to the bottom of the fold, the likes of John Kenzie Noel, Lane Thomas, Daniel Schneemann, these guys need to pick it up. Schneemann has honestly been able to hit for about like a 350 on base, so he's been picking up a little bit, but I need these other guys, Austin Hedges, whenever he gets some cracks at the catcher spot, Nolan Jones, these guys have been leaving something to be desired. So interesting circumstance here at a 9 or less. I'm down the over 9.5 or higher. The under, and for the Guardians, willing to lay up to minus 141 on the money line, plus 143 or higher. Looking at the Nats, 973, 974 on the betting board. It is the Houston Astros, and they're on the road facing off against the Milwaukee Brewers. Quentin Bricer is on the bump for the Crew, and Framber Valdez is on the bump for Houston, and Houston is a minus 124 to a minus 135 favorite. Plus 113 to a plus 117 is that number on the Brew Crew. 8 is the total. Under is minus 120, and the over is even. And with the Astros, made them a minus 136 favorite. So the minus 135 is the maximum willing to lay, but I'm going to be willing to lay it for Pricer. He's looked much better ever since he's gotten to the Milwaukee Brewers, but this is still not an end-all be-all pitcher that you want to be putting all of your shekels in the middle with. As right now, the strikeout stuff is still not necessarily amazing, only getting about 6 strikeouts per 9 innings. The command has been all over the place. He's made 5 total appearances, and he has given up about 6 walks per 9 innings. So he's got a 5.79 ERA, 5.33 fielding dependent, with giving up a little bit over a home run per 9 innings. And for Framber Valdez, recognize that this has not been the most savory start to the season for him, but he throughout his career has actually been a little bit better on the road rather than at home, and there should be some positivity with him giving up less than a home run per 9 innings, down to about 8 strikeouts per 9 innings. So you could use a little bit more there, but that said, this is still a man that has been able to do a solid job in terms of being able to give you some relatively good length, as he's given up about 3 walks per 9 innings, but has won 6+ innings in 3 out of his last 5 starts, and he is backed up by an Astros bullpen that entered into yesterday in the top 5 in the big leagues in terms of ERA. The Bryans, Brian King, Brian Abreu being able to give you sub 3 ERA, Josh Hader being locked down, Stephen Okert being able to give you some solid innings. Do like to see that. And for the Milwaukee Brewers, they have been a bottom 10 team in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA this season, but keep in mind, they were number 1 in the National League in terms of bullpen ERA season going. You've got a lot of those guys back. Yoel Payamps, Elvis Figueroa, Trevor McGill, Jared Koenig, all these guys that Abner Uribe has stepped up. He's been able to give you sub 275 bullpen ERA. For the Milwaukee Brewers, you've got a pair of guys that are doing a really good job of moving the line for the team. Bryce Terang alongside Al Frelick, who both have been able to hit above a 300. Now, Frelick was held out of the lineup yesterday, so you do want to be checking in on that. He's dealing with a little bit of an ailment, and that's big because Garrett Mitchell is still on the injured list, but Jackson Chourio, Christian Yelich, 6 home runs entering into yesterday. Yelich not necessarily doing the world's greatest job of finding way on base. That's been a little bit of an issue, but William Contreras back up to a north of 350 on base. You've got Jake Bowers, who's been able to give you some good at-bats. Do have some question marks with the infield. You've got the likes of Joey Ortiz, Caleb Duran, Vinny Capra, and then for the Astros, you've got plenty of question marks with regards to this lineup, as Yordan Alvarez, he has been dealing with a little bit of an injury the last few days, but even when he's been out there, he's not been that great. Yandy Diaz has a sub 275 on base. Brendan Rodgers has given you a nothing burger. You've had Cam Smith just not really find it as a rookie thus far this season. Isaac Paredes, Jose Altuve, both with 4 home runs, both give you about a 260 average going into yesterday. And Jeremy Pena has been able to give you a bit of average as well, along Jake Myers, but it has been a pretty suspect lineup, especially with Christian Walker hitting right around 200 with not a ton of power thus far this season as well. But interesting circumstance. I do think that the Astros are going to be able to get the price here a little bit in this spot. So I did set the money line at a minus 136. So I'm going to be willing to trust in the Astros here. And I did set my total at a 8.2. So here at the 8, I also like the over. 975, 976 on the betting board. The Philadelphia Phillies set the road face off against the Tampa Bay Rays. The Boz, Shane Boz, is on the bump for the Rays, and Christopher Sanchez is on the bump for the Phillies, and the Phillies are between minus 125 to minus 130 favorites, between plus 110 to plus 115 is that number on the Rays. 8.5 to 8 is the total on the 8. Over is minus 125, the under is plus 105 on the 8.5, under is minus 115, and the over is minus 105. And for Mr. Sanchez, I did set the Phillies at a plus 102. I'm going to be willing to back the Rays on the money line as an underdog. For Christopher Sanchez, he just has not been the same pitcher when he has been away from home rather than when he has been at home. As at home for Christopher Sanchez over the last few seasons, he is hovering right around about a neighborhood of a 3 ERA, and when he's been on the road, that ERA balloons up to nearly a 5. This season has been a little bit of a reversal, as on the road, he's made 2 starts. He's been able to do a solid job, giving up 3 runs in 8 1/3 innings, but still do have my suspect question marks there, as you've right now got him at home averaging 13.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, and on the road, 5.4 strikeouts per 9 innings. So that has been very interesting to say the least. And for the Boss last season, felt like he was a little bit fortunate to have that sub-3.5 ERA, but this season he has been very good, as he does have a 3.86 ERA, but 3.63 fielding dependent. He's getting 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's allowed just 4 home runs over the course of 35 innings thus far this season. And for the Tampa Bay Rays, they're getting better at home this season than they did a season ago because they're at Steinbrenner Stadium. The Trop always was very good at being able to suppress offense, and you've had Jonathan Aranda hit below just say 300, but he's been able to give you about 4 home runs thus far this season. Brandon Lau has been a little bit of a roll of the dice for this team, and Junior Caminero, he's now been able to give you about 6 home runs thus far this season, so he's been able to do a rock solid job. Having Jake Magnum on the injured list has been hurting this team quite a bit, but he's still been able to get some relatively good at-bats out of someone like a Cameron Misner, who's been able to hit north of a 260 for this team. Travis Jankowski is a veteran that's sort of been there, done that. Taylor Walls, the catcher spot, it's been a little bit rough for them, but you've also been able to get a little bit more out of Christopher Morel, who's a big flop last season. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, you continue to be able to get good production out of Kyle Schwarber. Has been able to give you a double-figure amount of bombs. He's providing north of a 370 on base, even though Bryce Harper has been a little bit hot and cold this far this season. He still has been able to give you about a 360 on base. Bryson Stott is hitting about a 275. Trey Turner's not hitting for power, but he's moved the line, give you about a 370 on base. Alec Boehm, after a rough start to the season, he's picking it up, though. Brandon Marsh has not really been able to find it. And for the Phillies, the big issue that you do have with this team, the bullpen has not been good thus far this season. Ryan Kirkring is rocking nearly a 5 ERA. Joe Ross has been the world's worst, and for Matt Strom, he's been very reliable. Jose Alvarado, he had a issue a few days ago, but all in all, he's been relatively okay. But Jordan Romano, that's just absolutely awful. And for the Tampa Bay Rays, you're able to just mix and match in this bullpen. You've got a lot of guys giving you a sub-3.5 ERA, like Hunter Biggie, Manuel Rodriguez, Mason Montgomery, Pete Fairbanks, all these guys. Garrett Clevenger doing a rock solid job, and I do think that that'll be just enough for them to be able to get the job done. I did set my total at 8.3, so at plus money, I'm going to be looking at the Rays on the money line, and here at an 8.5, I like the under 977, 978 on the betting board. The San Diego Padres at the road, they're facing up against the New York Yankees. Max Fried is on the bump for the Yankees, and Dylan Cease is on the bump for the Pods, and the total on this game is 8, under is minus 120, the over is even, and for the Padres, going to be finding them between plus 150 to plus 156 on the money line. Meanwhile, anywhere between minus 170 to minus 180 is that number on the Yankees. Going to be willing to take a shot on the Padres. I did set them at a plus 146 now. For Dylan Cease at north of a 5.6 ERA. That's not necessarily too tremendous, but I mean, he's got a 3.33 fielding dependent. He's still getting 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. His walks per 9 rate being right around 4 is a little bit less than savory, but 0.8 home runs allowed per 9 innings. And for Max Fried, he should see some regression in terms of this ERA, which is right around about a 1.11. He has allowed a combined 2 runs in his last 5 starts, but fielding dependent is more around a 2.96. He's not necessarily getting a ton of swings and misses. 7.9 strikeouts per 9 innings. That's his lowest strikeouts per 9 rate ever since the beginning of the 2017 season. Now, he does not put guys on cheaply, about 2.2 to 2.3 walks per 9 innings. And this is a Yankees bullpen that, other than Devin Williams, it's not been too bad. You've been able to have Luke Weaver be pretty rock solid. The earned run they gave up on Monday, that was the first one they give it up all season long. You've got Ian Hamilton, who's able to give you some good innings, and I also do like the fact that you've been able to do a nice job of being able to mix and match with some of these guys out there in the bullpen, as well as you've been able to get good innings and someone like Fernando Cruz, Tim Hill as well. But for the San Diego Padres, entered into yesterday number 1 in the big leagues in terms of their bullpen ERA. You've got so many guys like Yuki Matsui, Andre Motohone, Alec Jacob. They're able to fill multiple innings, give you some good production there. Robert Suarez, Jeremiah Estrada, Jason Adam have a trio of guys that are able to give you a sub 235 ERA, and now you've got Jackson Merrill back in the fold as well. You can tell that they were very much missing his back. Getting him back, that is going to be rock solid because Manny Machado has been able to do a solid job of being able to find a way on base, but he's only giving you like 3 home runs this far this season, so you're going to need a little bit more power there. Now Fernando Tatis Jr. is giving you darn near 400 on base, and he has been absolutely superb this far this season in terms of getting on base, providing 8+ home runs, so you do like to be able to see that, and they've got a lot of guys that they're finding a way to be able to move the line. Like Jose Iglesias is not necessarily going to be the world's greatest power hitter in the world or anything like that, but he's a guy that's able to move the line for you. You've been able to have Oscar Gonzalez find a way to be able to reach base, so that's been solid. Xander Bogaerts not aiming for any power, but you know what, he's able to give you a little bit of average. Getting back Jason Hayward as well, that's solid. And for the New York Yankees, you got Aaron Judge with that right around about 500 on base with 11 home runs at drinking yesterday. It's just been absolutely insane what we've been seeing there. Paul Goldschmidt is giving you 4 on base, so the power numbers are down for him a little bit. Ben Rice has been able to give you 8 bombs. He's right now supplying north of a 350 on base. Anthony Volpe has been relatively rough ever since that first series of the season. And Cody Bellinger, he needs to pick it up a little bit more, especially Jazz Chisholm right now being on the injured list, so it is a very interesting circumstance. Again, I think that we see a little bit of regression with Max Fried, but I still set a low total of a 7.7. I think that positivity is due in for Mr. Dylan Cease, so I like the Padres at a plus 147 or better on the money line, and I'm going to be in on the under, so I total 7.7. And we wrap things up with 979, 980 on the betting board. The Detroit Tigers hit the road face-off against the Colorado Rockies. Kyle Freeland goes for the Rocks, and Jackson Jobe is on the bump for Detroit. Detroit is anywhere between a minus 178 to a minus 190 favorite, and between plus 154 to a plus 162 is that number on Colorado, with 10 being the total. The under is minus 125, over is plus 105. If you're looking to lay run off with the Detroit Tigers, most places have this currently off the board. The one place where I'm seeing an actual rock-solid run line price, I was seeing that a little bit before, more in that neighborhood, about a minus 135 to a minus 140, and I would be willing to lay that run line here. As long as I'm able to get in on anything of about a minus 144 or less, I'm going to be willing to take a shot on that Detroit Tigers run line. Jackson Jobe has been pretty solid as a rookie, and I do think that there's going to be a little bit of regression with him because he's not necessarily like some sort of a strikeout artist. At this point, he is having the ball be put in play on him quite a bit thus far this season, but it's been rock solid at holding down the former top 5 pick who's been able to give you about a 338 ERA. Again, 494 fielding dependent, 7 strikeouts, 5.3 walks per 9 innings. A little bit concerning, but has done a very good job recently, giving up 300 runs or fewer in all of his starts as far this season. And I think that there's a little bit of positivity that it's doing for Kyle Freeland. He has a 5.70 ERA, but if you look at the fielding dependent, it's not an NLBL, but it's at 3.17 as he's not allowing a lot of hard contact. 3 home runs allowed in 36 and a third innings, but he has been not giving the team a lot of swing and miss as well. He's getting fewer than 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, and at Coors Field, when you're giving up contact, you're probably going to be giving up runs. And for this Detroit Tigers lineup, this has been a top 10 team in terms of offense this season after last year. They weren't quite that. You've been able to have Riley Green do a nice job of being able to supply the team with 6+ home runs this season, and had that 2 home runs in an inning game against the Los Angeles Angels, which I still find to be absolutely hilarious that he had 2 home runs in the same inning against that same poopy bullpen. But that said, you've also been able to get quite a bit of production recently out of Spencer Torkelson, who he this season has been able to do a very nice job of being able to give this team 8+ home runs. He's giving you north of a 340 on base. Batting average is starting to slide a little bit, but you've got Gary Carpenter, who's done a nice job of being able to put bat to ball, 8 home runs, a nearly 300 average for him. Zach McKinstry is giving you 375 on base. Dylan Dingler is starting to fade a little bit, but he and Javi Baez are both hitting a 300 as well. Other than Cole Keith, these guys have really been able to fire on all cylinders, and for the Rockies, obviously, it's a better offense at home rather than on the road because it's very difficult to be much worse than averaging about 2.25 runs per game away from home. Hunter Goodman has 5 home runs, and strangely, 4 of them have come on the road this far this season. He's been hitting about a 275, but Ryan McMahon, Michael Toglia, Jacob Stallings, these guys hanging below the middle side of 200 is rough. Chris Bryant is back on the injured list because that's all that he's good for at this point. But if you look at some of these Rockies guys at home, like a Toglia, who I mentioned is hitting below 200 overall for the season, that does go up to more like a 300 when he is at home. So that's been a little bit better for this team, but man, it is a very rough state of affairs for the team. Jordan Beck has been able to give you quite a bit at home. Pair of bombs, he's been able to give you about a 340 on base, and this is a team that at home they're averaging closer to about 4.5 runs per contest, and this is still a Rockies bullpen that's one of the worst in all of baseball. Do have a few guys who have been able to give you some good innings. Jimmy Harrigan, Zach Agnos have been able to give you a sub-3 ERA on El Shavilis, up to about a 4.4 ERA. Seth Halverson, about a 4 ERA himself, but when you get these guys like Tyler Kinley, Luis Peralta out there, they're just absolutely terrible. And if this sounds like an insert, it is. It's looking like it's undetermined as to whether it's going to be Kyle Freeland or Chase Nollander, and if you do get Dollander. It actually becomes even worse for the Colorado Rockies. So either way, I'm going to be in on the Tigers and I'm going to be in on the over. But Dollander, north of a 6 ERA, he has given up 8 home runs in his 5 starts as far this season. Not a guy that you want to be backing whatsoever, so I will throw that in there. For the Detroit Tigers, this has been a top 5 team with regards to bullpen ERA since the All-Star break of the 2024 campaign. Just so many guys are able to mix and match in this bullpen. As we got the likes of Tommy Kahnle, Brendan Hennefy, throwing their Brand Herter, who's able to be a nice long guy for the team. Tyler Holton, Will Vest, all these guys giving you a sub 280 ERA. I do think that this should be domination here by the Tigers. I'm willing to lay up to minus 144 on that run line, and did sell my total 10.3, so at a 10 or less, I'm in on the over, and that'll wrap things up for the Wednesday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the Beats and Family Podcast. Big thanks to Rob Donaldson of the Rob's Best Bets Show for joining me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of 2 ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at @GUnit_81. Keep in mind, letters maybe does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review, and I'm coming at you guys every single day on this podcast throughout the season, which means that I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.